Luna Silver Star Harmony is essentially a remake of the PlayStation classic Luna the Silver Star. It manages to retain nearly every aspect of its original incarnation, whilst throwing in some changes that help it stand out when compared. Players take up the role of a young man known as Alex, who is set on becoming a Dragon Master and matching the accomplishments of his longtime hero, Daini. Now the story won't win itself any awards, but where the experience truly shines is within its gameplay. It's a turn-based RPG that centers around your party's position on the playing field, which plays a huge part in overcoming each encounter. As you would expect, you'll find yourself leveling up your characters, as well as acquiring a whole host of weapons and abilities in order to make Alex's journey all the more manageable. Although Luna Silver Star Harmony is in no way the best RPG on the system, it's an experience that definitely deserves a playthrough. The popular Kingdom Hearts series' first appearance on the PlayStation Portable is something truly special. It is quite simply a full-blown console-quality adventure in the palm of your hand, and at the time of its release it was nothing short of incredible. Taking place 10 years before the events of the first game in the franchise, Birth by Sleep puts players into the shoes of three characters known as Terra, Aqua and Ventus, who all possess the power to wield Keyblades. Throughout the adventure you'll be visiting a whole host of worlds inspired by popular Disney characters, such as Peter Pan, Snow White and even Hercules. But what truly helps Birth by Sleep stand out is the incredibly deep and well thought out battling system that all takes place in real time. There's no waiting around in order to take turns, instead you have basic abilities at your disposal that once executed contribute to filling a gauge, which can result in performing devastating attacks once it has been filled. If you're a fan of the series, this one is a no-brainer, and even for those looking to jump into something new, Birth by Sleep has got it all. Afternoon of Darkness is a remake of the PlayStation 2 release and comes along with extra content and features that help make it one of the best ways to experience Disgaea. It is essentially a strategic role-playing game. As you would expect, a whole range of abilities are at the player's disposal, as well as items that can help the proficiency of your party as you make your way through the adventure. During battles, the player is limited to 10 characters in which to utilize. Each bring their own distinct advantages to each encounter, which help lend a huge amount of strategy when it comes to choosing them. And this is where half of the fun lies, with figuring out which set of allies work best with your playstyle, and is sure to keep you busy as you settle into the journey. Topping all of this off is the inclusion of a multiplayer mode. It takes advantage of the ad hoc connection on the PlayStation Portable and allows players to jump into several modes, including capture the flag, defeat the leader and standard battles. This aspect truly makes the experience shine, and at the time of its release was a first for the series. Afternoon of Darkness provides a ton of replay value and genuinely deserves a place in everyone's library. The adventure takes place during the 15th century, set across the battlefields of France, and introduces players to an unforgettable experience. It's essentially a turn-based strategic RPG that offers a diverse amount of ways in which to play, with the standout aspect being its campaign mode. It presents a generous amount of story-driven missions that all differ by featuring their own set rules and win conditions. For example, some see you having to defeat a certain type of enemy, whilst others might have you escaping the battle without any of your soldiers passing out. To top this off, most encounters have a set amount of moves in which to clear the battle, and with no way to resurrect fallen allies, it's incredibly important to plan ahead and think before taking action. These aspects tremendously add to the overall difficulty of the experience, and go a long way in helping the action stay fresh as you make your way through the adventure. Star Ocean: The Second Evolution is a remake of the PlayStation title known as Second Story, and manages to improve and present the experience in many new ways for the PlayStation Portable. One main new aspect has to be the inclusion of voice acting, which helps elevate the story that is presented, as well as updates and tweaks to the battle system that help it reach new heights when compared to its original incarnation. At the start of the adventure, the player has the choice between two characters known as Claude or Rena. There's not much that differs from choosing one or the other, but it does help warrant subsequent playthroughs. As mentioned, the battling system receives several upgrades that help make it feel all the more responsive and fluid. Each party member possesses both basic attacks as well as special abilities known as killer moves. These can be learnt over the course of the adventure and leveled up the more you use them. Now, Second Evolution is a pretty sizable journey and will offer up to 50 hours of gameplay depending on how deep you delve into the several systems in place. So if this one passed you by, now is the perfect time to try it out for yourself. The War of Lions is an updated version of the PlayStation Classic. It is a turn-based strategic RPG that takes place within the fictional world of Ivalice. The narrative follows two warring factions, with the player taking up the role of a young man known as Ramza, who is an heir to the throne. Gameplay-wise is where the experience begins to truly shine. The action takes place on a grid-based system, which facilitates each battle and determines player movement. A wide array of both abilities and equipment are available to the player in which to utilize, and tying this aspect together is the deep and rewarding job system that allows for an extreme amount of customization. Upon defeating enemies, you are rewarded with experience points as well as job points that can be used to level up the several differing aspects of each character and ultimately help the player forge an unstoppable team. Final Fantasy Tactics truly deserves a place in every PSP owner's library for both fans of the genre and newcomers alike. Trails in the Sky introduces players to the Kingdom of Liberl and sees them taking up the role of Estelle and Joshua, who are both children of one of the most respected bracers in the kingdom. Because of this, Estelle and Joshua wish to carry on in their father's footsteps, and this is where the story picks up. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it manages to serve the gameplay well, and this is where Trails in the Sky excels. The game is broken up into two sections, those being the field and towns. On the field, the player will encounter enemies and progress the effectiveness of their characters, whilst towns allow the player to visit various shops and inns, where equipment can be bought as well as quests undertaken. During battles, the action is presented on a grid and is turn-based in nature, with each character possessing their own unique abilities and setups. Position plays a huge role in battles and can help deal out extra amounts of damage when taken into consideration. If you're looking for an engaging and fun RPG, Trails in the Sky has got you covered. Jumping into the 7th iteration of a series may seem daunting to some players, but don't let that turn you off one of the finest RPGs on the system, as a knowledge of the prior games in the series is not really essential to understanding and enjoying E7. It's an action RPG that puts you in the role of a young man known as Adol. After learning of a great danger that poses a threat to the kingdom, the king tasks him with investigating a way in which to stop it. Like most action RPGs, E7's battling system is quite simple in its execution. The player can have up to 3 party members at any one time, with each character possessing their own key attributes that dictate how much damage they do to certain types of enemies. Due to this, you'll find yourself switching in different party members depending on the circumstances of each encounter. It's a nice touch that adds some strategy to each battle and helps the gameplay remain fresh and engaging. All in all, E7 is a competent RPG experience that is bound to satisfy fans of the genre whilst offering a truly accessible adventure for anyone who may fancy jumping in. Crisis Core takes place within the Final Fantasy VII universe and sees players assuming the role of Zack Fair, a character who also appeared in the main game on the PlayStation. Working for the Shinra Power Company, Zack is focused on furthering his career as a soldier and sets out on an adventure that sees him running into a few familiar faces and confronting his destiny head-on. It's essentially an action RPG, with the gameplay being divided up into several chapters that require the player to advance the plot by interacting with NPCs and overcoming an onslaught of enemies that you'll encounter along the way. One of the standout aspects of the experience is the battling system, that shares a few similarities with the likes of Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy XII. It allows the player to take advantage of several commands and abilities that can all be powered up over the course of the adventure, as well as new attacks becoming available as well. Visually, for a PSP game, Crisis Core is absolutely stunning and presents the world of Gaia in a lush and vibrant manner that is bound to make an impression upon many players. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy VII, this one is essential, and those looking for something different to get into, it is entirely accessible and doesn't really require a knowledge of the main game in order to enjoy it. Persona 3 is one of those games that has the ability to completely consume your time, may it be the enthralling narrative that is fueled with several twists and turns, the highly rewarding gameplay, or the incredible amount of customization and expression. There are a ton of reasons to keep on coming back to one of the finest RPGs ever produced. Gameplay wise, you'll find yourself exploring the city and meeting a lovable cast of NPCs, whilst also encountering a wide range of enemies in which to overcome through the use of the intuitive battle system. It's turn-based based in nature and grants the player several characters and abilities to use, the standout being that of summoning a persona, a powerful being that has the ability to turn battles around in the blink of an eye. Complementing this all is the fusion system that allows players to customize as well as create new personas in which to use in battle. It's a great system and becomes highly addictive once delving into the deeper aspects of its setup. Persona 3 is the definition of must-have on the PSP. If this one passed you by, now is the perfect time to try it out for yourself.